Alright. Sorry for cutting this song. But we got the OST here anyway. Rio! Welcome back, man. How have you been? Happy to have you back, man. Welcome back to the party. You made it just in time for the raffle, man. Alright. Okay, let me start talking about this a little bit. Screw the Pontificator being somewhat all over the place there. I'm not too worried about it. Alright, spoiler free. Yes, absolutely. I really like the music in this game. Really well done. Some of the dungeon themes I wasn't too big of a fan of. They basically weren't much of a song to begin with. But for the most part, the OST is really solid. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 9. It's very close to a 10 for me. If you can't expect every track to be good, but some of the tracks I feel really weren't tracks. They were just like renditions of sounds going back and forth, and we were listening to them for a while. Why were they banned? Oh, thank you for banning them. I didn't even get the chance to read that. No, I appreciate it. I didn't get the chance to read it beforehand. Thank you for that, guys. Thank you for looking out for the chat in the stream. Do not click links, guys. If you don't know who they're from, if you don't know who they are, don't click them. Okay, anyway, let's get back to this. So the OST was very good. I just feel like some of the tracks in the game were not even really tracks, and unfortunately, those were some of the longer dungeons. Plus, you hear the town themes a lot because you're going back in between them. And the good music, like the battle music in some of the areas that you're only in for short periods of time, you don't get to hear them for very long, but they're such good tracks. Don't mess around, man. Alright, so the graphics. I'm not too familiar with PS2 era graphics and stuff like that, so I really can't say too much about it, but the game looked really good. I'm always a fan of like anime cutscenes and stuff like that that's thrown in there. It always kind of is nice to watch the transition between trying to keep the gameplay and like the cutscenes being the exact same thing. I don't need that. But I'd say the graphics overall were really well done. Like the other Tales games that I played, the dungeons are pretty linear overall. You kind of got other places you can go, but they're not overly difficult. But all the different areas in the games or in the game and stuff like that really looked good, and the towns and stuff like that as well were all very interesting, and they all had a unique layout to them that was like really focused on the area and like what their technology was and what they stood for and everything else. And even the people's clothes and stuff like that in those towns were really well done. I'd say the characters showed funny emotions and stuff like that. The world map was probably a little bit lackluster for me in this. Like, I didn't really like it, and it was kind of awkward to move around in, but that just might be something I feel from the Tales games in general. But the flying in this felt a little awkward to me, but that doesn't really go too much to the graphics. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a 9 as well for the graphics. Story rating. I like the story. I like the characters even more so than the story. This game has the issue of jargon, where it came up with 100 different words that it was constantly throwing at you, and instead of just letting the plot unfold by showing the characters doing things and the anime cutscenes and things like that, it decided to have these long, drawn-out discussions where things were repeated, said, and then dumbed down for the viewers, because Luke was us, essentially. We didn't know what the hell they were talking about, so they had to go in and they had to start saying what was going on and things like that. So, I mean, overall, I really enjoyed the story, but the whole going back and forth between towns for politics to retrieve one person, then retrieve the other person, then retrieve the third person to then go to a group meeting and talk about something, and doing that a dozen times in this game. You really do it a bunch of different times. That didn't add to the plot at all. So to me, the game had some poor pacing at some points. You're getting into the action, you're getting into like these really, really good aspects where you're getting more interested in the story and what's going on with the world and what's going on with the characters, but then the game kind of puts you on these arbitrary fetch quests where you're going and getting a person and talking to them. And I kind of feel like that slowed the pace of the game down a bit too much for me, and not enough to make me dislike the game, but enough to notice it. It was enough to make me not want to explore other things and not want to like go through the towns and talk to all the NPCs anymore, because I did it so many times already. And I feel like that's the perfect opportunity to kind of like, you can give a player side quests to do, you can introduce them to new parts of the world, like talk to somebody and be like, oh hey, there's something over here, or force me to go to a place, but don't force me to do something there or something like that. Like, oh, there's an ice cavern over here, let's go here and get an item quick and then go from there, rather than going back and forth between 15 different towns. That's really, I think that was this game's biggest issue. And the reason it's its biggest issue is because it does it for so long. It's these giant gaps of that's what you're doing, and it feels like it was just to maybe like pad the game a little bit and add a couple hours to it. So I'm gonna say overall I really, really enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed the characters. Pacing is something that they had going for them, but they took away. And god damn it, Luke was annoying for 15 hours. 15 freaking hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the story overall an 8. And the only reason that I'm not giving it a 9 is because there was just way too much trying to explain what was going on in the game, rather than just showing what was going on in the game. And honestly, I feel like that's where most games falter nowadays. And I'll always go back to old games like Chrono Trigger and stuff like that, where you couldn't have huge expanses of dialogue and stuff like that, so they showed what was going on in the game. They expressed everything from visuals and your characters and everything else, and that's what they focused on. And I honestly feel like that's something that lacks in newer games. It doesn't mean that I don't like the story, I just don't like how it's conveyed in most cases. I'm sorry, I need to turn that down a little bit. So, Luke's character development, in my opinion, has a bit of a flaw as well. They're forcing his annoying behavior on you. It's not just like, we learn to dislike him a little bit because of the decisions he makes and stuff like that. They literally make him the worst person. And because then his transition happens like a flip of a switch, it's jarring, it's uncomfortable, it makes you uneasy as the player. Like, even the characters in the game are kind of like, yeah, whatever, we'll see if you change. But you know you're playing a game. You know he has to change. You know that they're not just going to let him be the same way now that he said he's going to change. So you already know where his story's going in that way. It's not like it's something unexpected at that point. So I feel like that whole 15 hours of just like, let's really, really, really make you hate him. Even though you probably already hate him for the goofy things he does and the fact that he makes poor decisions, let's just like put him in the gutter as much as possible. So yeah, it could have been done better in my opinion, but it was good. Alright, so the mechanics. There's a lot of mechanics in the game that I didn't quite understand, or I didn't quite use, I guess, which is unfortunate. The whole putting spells on the ground to do added effects, I tried to do it sometimes, but I couldn't do it very well. But it was there. I didn't mess so much with the putting things on your abilities either. I did it a little bit to increase the damage and stuff like that for Luke's. And some of the cast times and stuff like that for Tears, but that's about it. I didn't really go about buying too many new items in towns and stuff like that. I did on occasion, but it seemed like I was finding stuff that I needed to for the most part, so I just focused on that. Dungeons were pretty easy. The puzzles were very similar going through. There wasn't a whole lot of depth in the puzzles and stuff like that in it, but the environments for the different dungeons were unique and looked good, except for a couple rehashed ones, but I think they were meant to look the same because they were the same type of area. They were all supposed to be interconnected. So I'd say that the mechanics of this game were really strong. The combat system was a lot of fun, even though I didn't understand all of it. And it's definitely something that I could see myself messing around with again. So I'm going to go ahead and give the mechanics a solid 8 as well. I feel like they weren't explained very well, but I definitely could have done more research on my part to figure this stuff out. But I did try to test stuff to some extent. I figured some stuff out, just not everything. Alright. Grinding rating. I really don't feel like you're forced to fight that much in this game. I did have... the final battle was difficult for me. It was very close to being ripped a few times. But I don't know if that was because of my level or just because of the fact that I'm not that good at the battle system as a whole. But I really don't think you're forced to grind. Most of the bosses give you a huge amount of experience, which gives you a boost of 1 to 2 levels if you're behind. So it's kind of like a way to catch up. You might still have a bit of trouble, but as long as you're getting the equipment and stuff throughout the game, you really don't have to grind much. You really don't have to fight much at all. However, the bosses do take a while, and you're kind of doing the same attacks again and again and again and again and again and again. And I'd say in that sense, the boss fights can be a little grindy and go on a little bit longer than you expect when you're doing like these huge, awesome, amazing attacks on the boss and making him fly up all over the air and stuff like that. But too bad he's got 140,000 HP. But I'm gonna give that a solid 8 as well. Alright, so my overall rating for this game, it's really between an 8 or a 9 for me. Like I said, the pacing in the game really took away from the game for me for those few sections. I kind of felt like it was a grind to play those sections. I wanted the story, but I wasn't really getting story, and I just had to keep going back to the same places again and again and again, and that was a little frustrating. That killed the pacing and things like that. But the characters kind of made up for that in some cases. We got a little bit more character development in there, sometimes not. But that really is my biggest complaint with this game. It really is. That and Luke being whiny at the beginning. I'm not a huge fan of games where it kind of tries to make you think like all the characters are good, none of the characters are bad, all the characters were doing the right thing but the wrong thing at the same time, and you're trying to like feel for some of these characters and things like that. It definitely did a lot of that. But overall, it was a really good game. It really got to my emotions a few times. I liked the characters. I liked the growth of some of the characters. Some of the stuff was predictable and things like that, but not in a sense that it wasn't fun or interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a solid... I'm really on the fence. I think I'm going to give that an 8 overall. It's like an 8.5 for me, but since I don't go to 8.5s or round up or anything like that, it's really like an 8.5 for me. Between an 8 and a 9. It really is. I'm right in there. It's not like one of my top tier games of all time that I've played in memory, but it's up there as a game that I would definitely say, guys, try it. If you're willing to put the 40, 50, 70 hours it takes to beat it, it's a really good game. You're going to have a lot of fun, and I didn't even touch the side quest. Which game would I? Well, see, that's the thing. I need to decide whether I need to go back and start giving some of these ratings like the 8.5s or 9.5s and 7.5s and stuff like that. If I do add this stuff together, I'm giving it a... altogether is going to average out as an 8, but more an 8.5. El Tannen. Well, let's talk about it a little bit more. Well, actually, I want to see what you guys rate this first. Let me go ahead and see what you guys rated it. Alright, we got 19. Whenever we're getting close to 20, I have to do some stuff. Alright. Alright, looks like you guys gave it an 8.3. So you guys gave it like an 8.5 as well, which is pretty on par with what I said. Like I said, the two biggest issues I had with this game, the two biggest issues, is that the pacing of the game where you're going back and forth so often between these political discussions and things like that, and the fact that the game forces all this jargon on you, these new words and renditions of words and things you had never heard about before in the game at all, and then it brings something completely new that has to be explained. The game did that constantly, and like that takes away from those experiences for me a little bit. But like I said, it's about an 8.5 for me. It's a really solid game. It's definitely up there for me. You can look at the list, and we've had a few games that we have 8s. We've had maybe a few 9s, and I don't know if we'll get a 10. I don't know. I can't even know if I'll give something like Chrono Trigger or something like that a 10, and I've got really fond memories of that. But playing it again and trying to be objective as possible after playing it after all these years, I really don't know what I would give it. Will I play this game again? If I play it again, I'm going to play it through with somebody. I'm not going to play it again by myself. I feel like it would be a fun story to share with somebody. I think the characters would grow on people, and I really think that it's a game that overall has a solid story, if you want to give a person a game with a solid story. But I would recommend warning them that there is going to be a lot of, like I said, and I'll keep saying it, there's going to be a lot of big words and the technical terms and stuff like that that can kind of go over your head, even towards the end of the game. Even if you have a slight understanding of them, it kind of kills the mood in those situations where they're supposed to be like really important and deep and factual and things like that, but they're just like so in your face. I'm sure I missed a lot of the side stuff. I don't tend to do a lot of the side stuff. That's just how it tends to go. But I'm sure the side stuff would have added to the characters and stuff like that too. Alright, let's see. Today is the 14th. And it took us 42 hours, 33 minutes, and 21 seconds. And don't get me wrong, an 8 for me is really freaking good. I mean, the numbers for me between an 8 and a 9 is like top tier game. A 10's not perfect, but 10 is a game that I would recommend to absolutely everyone. And remember, a lot of my ratings come between like how I would recommend the game to a person. And I can, like I said at the beginning, I can see people dropping this game because of getting annoyed about how Luke is. And yes, I do think it's kind of silly to drop a game just because you don't like a character too much or something like that, you know, at the start, and actually not seeing it through, especially if it's got solid combat, solid music, and a bunch of other really good characters. Alright guys, you know what time it is. It's raffle time. Go ahead and type in the word raffle. If you type in the word raffle, you have the chance to pick the next game that I play. It's as simple as that. There's a giant list of a whole bunch of different games. If you're into RPGs, highly recommend entering. Everyone has an equal chance to win. Keep in mind, Nightbot is also entered now as well. If Nightbot wins, I'll give you guys a list of 5 games, and we will choose between those 5 games. It's Nakuri! He comes from the abyss! But again, everyone has an equal shot at winning. Does not matter how many times you've won. I don't think anybody's won twice in a row yet. But we have had people win more than once. There's a load of picks though, so, I mean, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for everyone. Now I'll give you guys about 5 minutes. You're assuming everyone's entering, Zapdos. Not everyone enters. But again, guys, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for spending Valentine's Day with me. I hope you guys had fun. Remember, we got a 15-minute time limit to pick the game and stuff like that, too. So get your picks ready now, or at the very least, kind of narrow it down a little bit, just in case you win. Alright, guys, another minute or two, and then we'll go ahead and roll this. Your bet's on Boom Cannon? Why don't you bet for yourself? I have no clue, buddy. Alright, guys. Good luck, everyone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, man. I'm gonna vote for Boom Cannon. I swear, some of you have to have the absolute best luck there is. 1, 2, 3. 3 times? Yeah, 3 times. Oh, man. I wish I had that much luck. I wish I had that much luck. It's seriously like winning the lottery, man. Winning once is one thing. Winning multiple times is ridiculous. Wait, why did it only color that cell? Well, congrats, Deformed. It's too many people have done too many suggestions, Deformed, so no, I do not remember. Oh, that's right! You wanted me to play Nier, holy shit. I've been wanting to play that game for a long time, man. Ever since it came out. That's gonna be fun. That was one of the games on my list of 5 that I really wanted to play. You can ignore it. Do we need special rules with Nier? I have no idea what you mean, Serene. I already own the PS4 version, so that's what I'll play. It was gifted to me from a friend. Special rules, like, well, if we're gonna be afraid of people spoiling and stuff like that, that's when we're gonna really need our mods to focus. So I'm gonna need people here to make sure people aren't spoiling anything for me. If we can do that. Well, if it's anything like the first Nier, then there's a lot of extra stuff if you do extra stuff. And remember, I'm not against doing extra stuff in games if I really enjoy it. as to if there's like more story and stuff like that afterwards, I'm not exactly sure how to gauge that as to when we stop the timer and things like that. But we'll figure that out when we come to it. I might ask a couple opinions of people and things like that. I don't want to see all of the Yadra Union endings. Alright guys, that means that we got Manakaima next, which we will probably start tomorrow unless something happens that I can't stream. And then after that, we've got Nier Automata. That should be fun as well. Alright guys, thanks so much. Let me find somebody to host you guys with. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for entering the raffle. And again, thanks for spending Valentine's Day with me. I appreciate it. Alright, who do we want to watch? Alright, guys. I think I will host Mr. Aswugi tonight. You guys are all my Valentines. How's that sound? Again, have a great night. I hope to see you guys tomorrow, and we'll get started with another game. Have a great night, guys. Go say hi to Swoogie. Actually, you guys want to raid? Yeah, let's do that. Let's raid. Let's raid. What do we want to say? We want to say Fawn? We want to say Fawn? Alright, guys. Spam it like you mean it. But before that, hold on. We gotta get better music for this. Stick around for a bit, guys. We will do a raffle here. Oh, come on.